What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode. I'm really excited to have you here today. I have in front of me the Easton Axis 4mm long range, new for 2021, the new Easton arrows, and I just got them in about a week ago, and man, I'm really pumped. I'm excited to have them. They are the micro diameter shaft, 4mm, superior penetration. I got them in the correct spine. Now I shoot an 80-pound Hoyt, and so I need about a 250 spine. They came out with a 250 spine, and these things are awesome. So we're going to take a little time to dig into these Easton Axis 4mm. I'm going to show you guys, what I think about them, what I'm doing. I'm playing around with different insert weights, different point weights, trying to maximize my arrow flight and make sure that the arrow is tuned to my bow. So stick with us, stay tuned. We're going to get into the new Easton Axis. Alright, so why go with a 4mm arrow? There's a lot of people say there's downsides, that you shouldn't go with 4mm, it's too small. There's issues with potentially when you hit a game animal that something might break. There's just not enough meat here, blah, 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 blah. And yes, there are some, downsides to 4mm arrows, but I think there's also some really good benefits that maybe outweigh, the downsides. So a 4mm arrow, it's going to penetrate more. It's going to, when it hits that game, you're going to get more penetration because that broadhead is going to be bigger on this end, and then you're going to have less drag going through. So for me, as you can see in the footage, when I shoot this side by side to a 5mm, it's getting 5 to 6 inches more penetration. Same weight, same arrow setup, everything. For me personally, I think getting that more penetration is something I definitely want to see. So one of the drawbacks is people complain that sometimes that these inserts can snap here because this is a micro diameter shaft, there's not as much meat here, and yes, that is a real issue. That could happen. So there's different things that you can try. There's different types of inserts. So behind me on the table here, I have, I think, 6 different inserts I've been playing with. I've been playing with the aluminum half-outs made by Easton. I have the Easton titanium half-outs, and then I've been playing with the Iron Will components. I really like their system with their steel hit inserts, and then they have the shock collars which go over them. So you can see this arrow here. This is the Iron Will system. So this is an Iron Will head with an Iron Will shock collar, and then this one here actually has a 75 grain hit insert, so it's about that long inside of here. Now this is the shorter collar. I can go with a much longer collar which weighs 25 grains, and it'll give me more protection. So if you look at this arrow here, this arrow has 125 grain head with a 25 grain shock collar. So that's going to give me extra reinforcement if I hit, maybe I'm taking a hard quartering shot and I hit a shoulder blade or something. That's going to give me the extra strength here to get through that animal. This particular arrow here has 100 grain hit insert, so that insert's about this long, which is going to give you extra strength. All right, so by far the biggest complaint that I've read online is guys complaining about the insert / outsert system you have to use. So you have to make a choice. When you're going to run a 4mm arrow, you got to either use a deep 6 insert or you got to use a half out. Now this is an Easton half out. It's an aluminum half out, and I've read a lot of guys complaining that it's nice because you put it in, it's easy to put in, and then you can use whatever standard, 8/32 broadhead that you want to use, and guys love that. But what happens is after you shoot this a bunch of times, you hit something hard in the target, or maybe you miss your target, this thing is going to bend, and you're going to get a wobble in your arrow. So that's a real issue. If you're looking for long range accuracy, this is probably not going to cut it. If it bends, it's junk. So now Easton has a titanium half out, and I have not really read a lot of feedback on this one. So I built a couple of these up, and they shoot really well. And so far so good. Well, we're going to have to check on the spinner to make sure that it's holding true, but this titanium, obviously titanium is very strong. It's not going to be apt to bend as easily. So, you know, we'll definitely have to keep an eye on how this insert works here. So the other drawback to this titanium half out is it's $40 for 6 of these. $40 for 6. So that is really expensive. So now you're adding like a significant amount of price to a 4mm arrow. Now these aluminum half outs are $15.99 for 6. So, you know, you can do the math on there pretty easily. Another option is you can use the standard Easton inserts. You know, I've read it's hit or miss with those as well. So I did a lot of research. I was looking at ethics archery for a while, and I decided to go with the Iron Will system. Hands down, I never read one bad thing about the Iron Will inserts. This is steel insert. This is actually a 100 grain insert. And I mean, look at how far deep that's going to go into that arrow, and you're going to have all that rigidity. So if you're looking to build a high FOC arrow with a lot of weight, I would definitely check out Iron Will. They make some great components. As you can see right here, we have an Iron Will field point, and then this is a 10 grain shock collar. So on this particular arrow, I got a 75 grain insert, so it's probably about this long, and now I have this shock collar to help, you know, give it some added strength. So there's a lot of options out there for, you know, insert systems, and you can really, if you do your research, you can find some of these companies like Iron Will are very easy to work with. I've heard Ethics Archery is very good to work with as well. If you just call them on the phone and say, hey, this is what I'm running, this is what I need, they'll walk you through it because their website isn't the best. Now, I found Iron Will's website to be a lot easier to use, and I was able to pick out all these components that I needed without calling anybody. So this particular arrow here, I have a 50 grain HiiT insert, an Iron Will HiiT insert installed here. This is an Easton Deep 6 125 grain head. So this arrow right here is running at 491 grains, and I'm at 15 FOC, right around 14.9, 15% FOC. So it's got a good FOC, it hits hard, it's extremely fast, and I was able to paper tune this out of my bow, which was set up already for the Easton 5mm. It took me 5 shots to paper tune this, and I was shooting darn near bullseyes at 20 within, you know, 10 minutes after. So I did have to adjust my sight a little bit. Obviously, it's lighter, it's hitting higher, but it shoots flat, and that's really what I was looking for. The reason that I really wanted to go to a 4mm arrow is because I'm shooting an 80-pound bow. Now, when you shoot an 80-pound bow, you got to have a heavy spine arrow. So I'm running Easton Axis 5mm and 260 spine. That's 11.5 grains per inch. That's very heavy. When you have a 29-inch draw, that's a very heavy arrow. So, you know, for deer, it's perfect. But when you want to go shoot some 3D or you want to go to Total Archery Challenge, it's really better to have something lighter. So this Easton here is... Where'd that go? Where'd it go? Yeah, it's 9.8 grains per inch. So now I'm able to run a much lighter arrow that has the same stiff spine, and I can shoot this out of my 80-pound bow and I don't have to worry about blowing my bow up. So for me, you know, this setup for Total Archery Challenge, 491 grains, I think is going to be absolutely perfect. You know, I probably could go lighter if I swap out this head, but then my FOC is going to drop something to like 12.6, which is not bad for 3D, and I might actually do that. I'm just waiting to get some 100 grain Deep 6 field tips here. I don't have any, so I'm waiting on those in the mail. But yeah, I'm really impressed so far. You know, I have an arrow here that, I think it's this arrow. Yep, this arrow right here is set up for 568 grains. So I was playing around with different setups. I set this one up for 568. This thing is a freaking hammer. So come deer season, you know, after Total Archery Challenge, we might build a new sight tape. I might run these beasts because, you know, if they fly good and they tune good out of my bow, that's going to be killing some deer. So, you know, this would be a heck of a setup for anybody that wanted to go out west, shoot elk, shoot bear. I mean, this would be an absolute tank right here. So, all right, so one important thing to talk about is cost. This is not a cheap arrow. It's actually pretty expensive. You're looking at, you know, over $15 per arrow, probably about 15 and a quarter, which is going to put you at like $185 a dozen, plus your components. So you're going to either have to get the aluminum half outs, which are, you know, 30 bucks for 12, or you're going to have to get the titanium half outs, which is going to be like another 85 bucks. Or, you know, you go with the HiiT inserts, and, you know, I mean, it gets expensive. You know, that's a bare arrow. That's not fletched. You know, maybe if you get it from Pro Shop, it might already come fletched. But, you know, I had to have these done. So, you know, that was an extra cost. So they're not a cheap arrow. I think that these are, you know, a very good arrow, a premium arrow. They're not the most expensive arrow out there. Easton Pro Comps or Pro Comp 2s are like ridiculously expensive. But, you know, we're not tournament archers. I wanted a micro diameter, something that was going to shoot really flat, be lighter. And, you know, I had to pay to get it. So, good thing I got that Biden stimulus money. So, hopefully you got some too. Maybe you can use that if you're looking to get these arrows. And thank Uncle Joe for giving us that loot. But, you know, the cost it's very expensive. So, you know, before you get into this wormhole, hopefully this video can help you, you know, kind of see the cost of involved with everything. And maybe it can help you decide if this is right for you or not. Easton 5mm is still a great arrow. Awesome arrow. I have a bunch of them behind the camera right here. You know, I'll always have those arrows, and maybe I'll shoot them again. I don't know, but, you know, I want to try the 4mm, and I'm really happy with them so far, but they are expensive. So without a doubt, the most important question, how do they fly? So far, these things shoot amazingly accurate. I've only really shot at 20 yards, and then I ripped a couple at 60. I don't have a sight tape built yet, but I tell you what, so far, so good. I'm really impressed with the way they shoot, the way they fly out of my bow. They group really well. And, you know, I have several different arrows built in different weights. So it's kind of crappy because I can only really shoot one comparison at a time. But, man, I tell you what, they're shooting really good. I have a lot of confidence in this arrow so far. I just really have to pick a weight that I'm ready to go with, and then I'll end up making, I got 12 more arrows, and I'm going to go ahead and make those up for Total Archery Challenge, and then decide, you know, after that if I want to, you know, change the point weight out and put something heavier for deer season. But they fly really good. I'm very impressed. I would say that these fly just as good, if not better, than the 5mm. I haven't got the chance to shoot them in like really heavy winds. And, you know, that's one of the things I didn't really touch on is, you know, this micro diameter shaft is going to fly better in a crosswind. It's not going to have as much drag. So I haven't really got a chance to test it yet, but I'm going to make a couple more videos on this arrow here. So make sure, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned. We got another video coming up where I'm going to do a penetration test versus the 5mm. And then we're going to do a couple more videos with these Easton Axis 4mm. I hope you liked the video, and yeah, we'll see you next time, and thanks for watching. Peace.